another first-person shooter. Well, kind of. Turns out it wasn't only Resident Evil Nintendo was using to prove that they were a good option for the more mature gamers. They also turned to their dark, atmospheric sci-fi horror property Metroid, which had sat out the entire previous generation but was resurrected here as a first-person shooter. Which is another thing those teenage gamer bros like, am I right? This one's a bit different though. It's easy to look back at the first-person shooter and see a linear progression from Wolfenstein 3D through Doom and all the Doom clones, then to Quake and all the Quake clones, and games that essentially reskinned the Quake engine for whatever adventure they fancied, from Star Wars to Star Trek. All these games obviously share a lot of similarities in terms of structure and gameplay, and so the first-person shooter as a genre became quite well defined. Everyone knew what one was, and it was generally accepted by 2002 that it was about a wide range of guns and a thriving multiplayer scene, with Half-Life existing as an outlier. But all this had largely occurred on PC, where a mouse and keyboard setup was the perfect control scheme, online play was becoming easier and free, and an entire community grew up around competitive shooter antics. Aside from some pretty ropey Doom ports and some even more ropey Bond games, GoldenEye aside.
Hey! Stop! Stop! Ah!
Shooters hadn't really thrived on console, which meant there wasn't quite so much of an established expectation about what they should be. GoldenEye had been the one standout console shooter for a long time, this year accompanied by Halo of course, and now Nintendo were going to do something a bit different with it. Choosing this IP as the vehicle really meant they had to do something different. The original Metroid games on NES and SNES were side-scrolling adventure games in which combat was a key component, but not the sole focus. I don't think anyone would disagree that the primary objective in Metroid and Super Metroid is exploration. You uncover a large map full of different enemies and platforming challenges, unlocking character upgrades along the way that allow you to access different areas, until you're eventually able to traverse the endgame. This happens at a relatively serene pace, the narrative unfolding as you go, so it doesn't really map directly onto what people in 2002 expected the first-person shooter to be. It's worth remembering this is the same year we got Command & Conquer Renegade, but even well-received examples like Halo as well as Time Splitters and Red Faction trod a well-worn path in replicating the trigger-happy FPS PC experience. So Metroid Prime really was a breath of fresh air. In some ways it's a bit more like Half-Life in the sense that narrative and atmosphere is prioritised over the fetishizing of different kinds of guns and increasingly frenetic and adrenaline-fueled firefights, even though Half-Life eventually became that towards the end. Prime imaginatively translates that core element of slow-paced exploration into a first-person perspective, while improving upon it with FPS mechanics and a haunting soundtrack to really draw you in. Throughout the game, enemies aren't just thrown at you en masse to provide a serotonin-boosting hail of gunfire. Instead, they're a constant background obstacle, either enhancing the trickiness of some of the platform challenges, or blocking off areas altogether until you explore more and find the right upgrade. Obviously there are times when the game becomes a more traditional shooter, but it never feels like anything but Metroid. Particularly after that opening abilities when you get all your cool powers taken away and have to reacquire them one by one. You have a showdown with that guy at the end of that sequence. You know, the guy, the character, I genuinely can't remember his name. Like, he's one of the big characters in Metroid, and I can't remember his name. It's like it's not Gordon. Is it Gordon or Ryan or Terry? Is it Terry? No, I just think it's Terry because he looks like a pterodactyl. That's a dumb association. What is it? He has a regular guy's name, like not what you would expect a weird, massive, mutant flying space dinosaur to have.
Sarah, this is Billy, Simon, Jeffrey. How could you not know his name? He's not on Facebook!
Ridley, that's what it is, yes. I knew it was something like that. Even when you're shooting a lot, you're also thinking about getting to a situation where the enemies have been thinned, so you can activate your scanner and learn more about the environment. This is actually the core of the game. You scan around and find weaknesses or control panels that can further the narrative and aid your forward progress. The combat itself is a little more thoughtful than just spraying bullets around the screen too. The lock-on mechanic means that the game's clearly designed with small-scale battles against a small number of enemies. This forces you to be tactical and thoughtful about how you approach new areas. Draw enemies out, isolate them, use the lock-on mechanic to strafe around them, dodging their attacks, and feel like a real, proper elite bounty hunter, rather than a psychotic homeless guy who's found a gun in a bin and just decided everything has to die.
Bitch nuts, mother dick.
It is worth pointing out here, though, that the controls themselves were designed by an actual sadist. From mandatory inverted Y-axis for some reason, to the finger gymnastics required to lock on, fire, move, and scan, all in temporal close proximity to each other. In the opening level, you're floundering around like Bambi on ice. It's an absolute train wreck. It was an experiment that didn't quite work, but you did get used to it, like a prisoner of war, I suppose.
Tell me how many lights you see. How many?
It's no surprise that the controls were radically overhauled and designed more like a traditional shooter in the recent re-release. And then there were the ball puzzles. You don't see this in other shooters, being able to turn into a ball and roll around through pipes and tunnels, finding unexpected routes into new areas and using bombs to jump and do even more frustrating platforming. It all adds variety and stops the game ever feeling like a boring slog. There's always something new to explore and some new approach to take. This was a real achievement and was, in my opinion, treated a bit harshly by Metroid fans because it didn't look like the others. Oh, and the boss fights were really satisfying, although they did drag on a bit at times. So yeah, this is a classic for a reason, but if you are going to try it, it should be that Switch re-release, unless you want sore fingers and a broken controller.